Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our world of darkness. It's Monday. It's Metaplot Monday. But today we're going to go over something that's slightly off the concept of Metaplot, and that is mechanics. So I guess we're having our first Mechanics Monday. The reason we're going off Metaplot today is because a viewer by the name of Jason Gaylord sent me a message after my Potence video on Friday that said the V5 Errata of Prowess lets you add half your potence to damage with melee. And then also, Larissa also comments, melee options have been errated into Prowess. And I have committed one of the cardinal sins of gaming, and that is not being able to keep up with some of the updates and stuff like that. And I actually wanted to talk about erratas because I hate them. I hate erratas. I don't hate the fact that rules change or anything like that. I really don't. I just hate the fact that, like, I spent money on this book that I try to do my best to keep in good condition that has the rules in it, but then I have these printed out pages that I have to keep off to the side that I have to remember exist and stuff. And I'm sure everybody has issues with that. It just really sucks that, like, the book was put out and then rules got changed. So anyway, I wanted to go over that because I had an option. It's like I could redo Potence and take it down and basically have it so that at this point 148 people, I mean, that's not much, but like it's much for me because I'm at 191 subscribers now. Like, I'm almost at 200 and I'm excited about that, but like I watch people who have like 10 billion people. But like I could erase all that and basically make what people watched pointless, put it up and stuff like that, or I could just do a video on the errata, and I think that's what I have decided to do. So like I said, there have been some changes to VTM, and they're not recent changes either. The vampire errata that I was told about that I didn't know about came out in September of 2019. So if anybody else doesn't know about that, I don't dig into company websites and stuff like that. I typically don't care when it comes to that. I like what's in my book and I'm happy, and errata, I mean, I understand erratas exist and stuff like that, but like, I don't know. I was like, I'll figure it out eventually, right? However, there is another errata set which came out in the companion. So, and if anybody knows of any others that have come out after I go up through this, please let me know. But we're going to start off on the September 2019 errata, which is the V5 errata 2.0. All right, so here we are in the V5 rules errata 2.0, which means that there had to have been one before this, right? But I don't know. This is what I've got so far. Chapter 2, The Hunt, page 44. Change, Lars gets only 2 successes, so Sandra spends a couple of hours calling people with exactly 0 to show for it. The storyteller sets the difficulty to 4. 2, the storyteller sets the difficulty to 4. Lars gets only 2 successes, so Sandra spends a couple of hours calling people with exactly 0 to show for it. So with that one, they switched it around. They made it so that the mechanics came before the example for that. I'm sure that helps people with a literary bend, so sure. Chapter 3, Endings and Beginnings, page 57. Change, no kindred of 13th generation or lower is welcome in the Camarilla. 2, no kindred of 14th generation or lower is welcome in the Camarilla. So in other words, chapter 3 for Endings and Beginnings is basically just saying we don't like thin bloods in the Ivory Tower, and that makes a lot of sense. I was a little thrown off, but I kind of figured it was just higher politics. It was the Ancilli just trying to make it so that neonates, like, basically you had to be of a certain time period of embrace to be in, but like your generation doesn't switch. So it was basically just backhanded politics. But I can understand why they switched it to 13th gen instead of 14th, or to 14th gen instead of 13th gen. Blood Bond, page 58. Change a mystical power relationship between two individual vampires, where one has partaken of the other's blood thrice. Accepting blood from a vampire is an acknowledgement of their mastery. 2. A mystical power relationship between two individual vampires, or a vampire and a mortal, where one has partaken of the other's blood thrice. Accepting blood from a vampire is an acknowledgement of their mastery. Okay, so they just went ahead and threw mortal in there, which makes a lot of sense because you can blood bond mortals. That's one of the things that I completely just don't grasp in V5 is the way they handle blood bonds. I think that I've been leaning towards running it with the old system with blood bonds, but I don't know. Maybe we'll go over that at some point in time. I'm pretty sure that will be one of our meta plot hits. Prince, page 57. Change the term can refer to a kindred of either sex. 2. The term is gender neutral. Okay, basically they're just accepting the fact that people are expressing themselves in different ways nowadays, and basically saying refers to either sex, says there's one or the other, and not a plethora of ways to express yourself nowadays. So that makes a lot of sense, especially I can see that being something in the older system, even if we were like accepting, even if everybody in the world was 100% accepting of everything nowadays, I could see that being a thing that pop up in earlier editions for story reasons. But due to the fact that this is a mechanic, saying that it's gender neutral makes a hell of a lot more sense. So now we move on to chapter 4, the Nosferatu Bane, page 85. See, I've already done my discussion on Clan Nosferatu and everything, so this right here will be changing something that I said there. That was a long time ago. That was months ago. So, Nosferatu Bane, page 85. Change revolting flaw to repulsive flaw. Change, in addition, any attempt to disguise themselves as human incur a penalty. 2. In addition, any attempt to disguise themselves as non-deformed incurs a penalty. Basically saying that anybody who would fall as deformed couldn't possibly be human. So this is more of a, again, it's more of a societal blending, trying to make things more accepting for people, because not everybody has like the gorgeous lifestyle. So they just don't want to offend anybody. So added, most Nosferatu do not breach the masquerade by just being seen. They are perceived by mortals to be grotesque and often terrifying, but not supernaturally so. So, again, they're basically saying that a Nosferatu could very well walk around outside without their mask up, but they're probably going to be easily identified. So keep that in mind for you Nosferatu players. Chapter 5, Opposition, page 119, first bullet point. Change. Decide on a difficulty according to the table above. 2. Decide on a difficulty according to the table below. So this is just placement in the book. Chapter 6, Set your attributes. Ooh, I see something funny here. Chapter 6, Set you attributes. Page 144. If we're putting erratas out to fix things, there's a typo, I'm assuming, unless set you attributes is normal. Change, then pick 4 attributes at 3 dots and 3 attributes at 2 dots. 2, then pick 3 attributes at 3 dots and 4 attributes at 2 dots. Basically, we've built our characters wrong. Shit. I'm not gonna take away points from people. I'm not gonna change things for that. Any new players that come in, if I remember that this errata exists, then I'll talk to them about it. But as it is, my players have been a couple of my players have been playing in this plot line that I'm running for a year now. So there's no way in hell I'm gonna change their character sheets. Choose a lore sheet, page 151. Added. At storyteller discretion, players may purchase dots in additional lore sheets during gameplay. That actually helps me a lot because I've been going through my head about, are you allowed to have multiple lore sheets in game? Can you only take one? Like, I really haven't grasped on that because I love the lore sheet system. But the way that it's presented out there, it really looks like, aside from Bloodlines, like if you're playing a Errata and stuff like that, and then possibly even the Descendants lore sheets, because I count those kind of in the same vein as Bloodlines, is, are you allowed to have additional lore sheets on top of that? And it says right here, at storyteller discretion, the player may choose to do that. So, yay. Farmer, page 177. Change Game the Feeding Flaw Vegan to Game the Feeding Flaw Farmer. Basically, because saying that vegan is a 2-point flaw is insensitive to vegans. And now I'm just waiting for farmers to be insulted by this. I don't care how insensitive that sounds, it's funny to me. And then feeding, page 151, change the flaw vegan, 2 points, to the flaw farmer, 2 points. They basically just were, somebody probably complained about, a vegan probably complained that being a vegan is not a flaw. That's why that was changed. Folklore Bane, page 182, change 2-point folklore banes include to a coven of elder Malai would be a 4-dot Mala group. We're gonna reread that slower just so I can comprehend what the hell I just read. Folklore Bane, page 182. Change 2-point folklore banes include to, so we're changing it from 2-point folklore banes include to a coven of elder Malali would be a 4-dot Mala group. I think we might have something that's wrong here. So let's move on. Mala, page 192. Change. A character might be a 2-point bond junkie with short bond to a character might be a bond junkie with short bond. I think there might be some mistakes in this. Mala, page 192. Change a coven of elder Mawali would be a 3-dot Mala group to a coven of elder Mawali would be a 4-dot. I'm pretty sure that section is screwed up in the errata. And then we're going to move on to status, which is page 194, change notorious to suspect. Okay, makes a sense, I guess. Let's move on to chapter 7, bite attacks, page 213. Update section, vampires can use their fangs as weapons during a brawl-based attack. To attempt a bite attack, the player must declare their intention to bite before rolling the die. They can do so in 2 ways, either by succeeding in a grappling contest or directly with a strength plus brawl called shot with a 1 success penalty unless part of a grapple. Bite attacks are easier to defend against and harder to target on exposed flesh. A win on a roll lodges the attacker's fangs into their victim, treating the foe as grappled and dealing them exactly 2 aggravated health damage despite the margin of success or damage modifier. The bitten foe can escape through a contest of strength plus brawl as per the rules of grappling, whereas the attacker may continue biting without the called shot penalty applied to their bite attack pool. So once you got them, you just keep biting them. Feeding does 1 point of aggravated health damage to mortals per turn, as well as slake 1 hunger for the feeder against the vampire targets. A feeding attack increases the target's hunger as per feeding from other vampires above. Instead, other creatures are also capable of bite attacks, but only vampires deal aggravated health damage. That's a lot. I'm just saying. So I guess we're just updating that. It doesn't say replace or anything like that. I guess that's just getting added in. Stakes, page 221, added. So this is just getting thrown in there. In circumstances where time and disturbance is not a factor, no roll is required to stake an incapacitated or sleeping vampire at storyteller discretion. Suck. I don't know. If I had like humans trying to stake a vampire, I'd make it easier definitely if they were sleeping, but I don't think I would make it so that it was just an automatic success. Ghouls, page 234. Change: a mortal who drinks a vampire's blood becomes something more or less than human for a time. Derisively called a ghoul by Western vampires, a mortal gains a smidgen of the power of true vampire. Changing that to: a mortal or animal who drinks a vampire's blood becomes something more or less than what they are for a time. Derisively called a ghoul by the Western vampire, the imbiber gains a smidgen of the power of a true mortal. And then also change: the effects are temporary, however, and if weaned off vampire blood, the mortal deteriorates rapidly as the years catch up with their halted age. 2. The effects are temporary, however, and if weaned off the vampire's blood, the imbiber deteriorates rapidly as the years catch up from the aging. Change: a rouse check's worth of vitae bestows the following benefits to a mortal for approximately a month. The mortal gains the first dots of their master's highest rated discipline, along with a single level 1 power possessed by the vampire. 2. A rouse check's worth of vitae bestows the following benefits to a mortal or animal for approximately a month. The master grants the mortal the first dot from one of their disciplines known by the master, along with a single power possessed by the... Okay, so that seems fine, but there's like still a problem there because... the only reason I'm nitpicking is because this is the kind of thing that like I'm talking about. This is a published errata that still has problems with it. And again, it's not even that big of a deal. It just says a mortal. I would have taken mortal meaning human or animal. But it does say in the changed part that the mortal or animal for approximately a month, and then the next sentence says the master grants the mortal the first dot. It should still say the mortal or animal if that's what they're doing. I'm being a pain in the ass, I understand that. Effects of Diabler. Change: they persist for a year, or if the Diablerist generation was lower than the praise, they persist for a number of years equal to the original difference in generation. 2. They persist for a year, or if the Diablerist generation was higher than the praise, they persist for a number of years equal to the original difference in generation. So there's that, which I don't fully understand. If it lasts for a year, that's fine, but why would it last for the number of years equal to the difference if the Diablerist is of a higher gen? I mean, I guess it just basically means that that soul was that much more powerful, so I guess I kind of get that. Also change: They must then roll a contest of humanity plus their own blood potency versus the victim's resolve plus blood potency. Every success gives the Diablerus 5 experience points to immediately spend on increasing blood potency to a maximum up to the victim's blood potency, or on disciplines known by the victim. 2, they must roll a contest of their humanity plus their own blood potency versus the victim's resolve plus blood potency. Even if the Diablerus fails this contest to assert control, every success rolled on the humanity plus blood potency roll gives them 5 experience points to immediately spend on increasing blood potency to a maximum up to the victim's blood potency, or on disciplines known by the victims. So, perhaps I'm just getting a little dizzy from reading all this shit, but, like, is this saying that the Diablerist receives benefits for Diablerie even if they fail the Diablerie? Even if the Diablerist fails this contest to assert control, every success rolled on their humanity plus blood potency roll gives them 5 experience to immediately spend on increasing blood potency and in disciplines known by the victims. Let me know if this is a thing, because, like, seriously, that seems a little strange. Damaging or destroying touchstones, page 240. Change of course. Any storyteller worth their salt creates story and drama that puts pressure on players and decides between harming their touchstones and achieving some vampiric goal. 2, of course, any storyteller worth their salt creates stories and drama that puts pressure on a player to decide between preserving their touchstones and achieving some vampiric goal. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. That really does, because it talks about, like, your own personal rising through the ranks versus keeping your human connections safe. Look at the elders and the Camarilla. They're not fucking humane. So, humanity table, page 241. Humanity 7 appears twice. Second instance from top should read humanity 5. Okay, so they're fixing a typo. Cool. Losing the last drop, page 241. Change all their attributes and scores increasing to 5 for the scene. 2, all their physical attributes increase to 5 for that scene. Okay, so I guess originally they had it so all that, like, your socials and mentals got popped up too. Probably still having to do with Diablerie, considering the fact that we're talking about that. We're still on the same page. Alright, Chapter 8, Using Powers, page 244. Added. So add this to what's already there. Add the bonus from blood potency and intense temperament, page 228. Only to users' dice pools that directly benefit from disciplines, adding dice, or that use the discipline as one of the traits of their role. If multiple disciplines enhance the same role, such as Eyes of the Beast, Protean 1, and Daunt, Presence 1, only add 1 bonus. So you can't stack your disciplines for being scary. You're either scarier or you're not scarier. And that's basically what that is. So, fine. Sense the Beast, page 255. Sorry. I need an errata. Sense the Beast, page 245. Change on a win. A critical gives you the user's information on the exact type of creature, as well as their hunger or rage level. 2, on a win. A critical gives the user information, the exact type of creature, for example, a werewolf, as well as their hunger or equivalent level. and their resonance. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense considering the fact that they have not introduced werewolf yet. And one of the beautiful things about V5 is it's gaining new players. It's gaining more people. So people are reading that and going, Rage? What the fuck is that? Since they don't have a W5 yet, that makes a lot of sense. I cannot wait for W5, by the way. So bring that shit to me. Let me read that. All right, so we are on disciplines now, which makes me very, very happy. Sense the Beast was a discipline, but we're into some stuff. So Auspex, page 249. Add level 3 header prior to Scry the Soul. Okay, they forgot the header, so there's that. Prowess, we're on Potence. We're on where this all started for me. Page 264. Change when activated, add the Potence rating of the user to their unarmed damage value as well as their feats of strength. 2. When activated, add the Potence rating to the user to their own armed damage value as well as feats of strength, and add half their Potence rating rounded up to their melee damage. So you can in fact use melee weapons with prowess, which I was going to do anyway. I wasn't going to do half, but I guess with the whole mentality of you need to put effort into controlling a weapon, that it might take less. I was basically just saying, yeah, you can do it like once, but you're going to break the tool. So this allows you to continue using that tool. You don't break anything. There you go. Brutal Feed also has an errata to it. So Brutal Feed, page 264. Change in combat. Brutal Feed comes immediately after a successful brawl attack using fangs. 2. The victim first takes bite damage, followed by a number of automatic successful feeding actions up to the user's Potence rating. Against vampires, the number of feeding actions is halved rounded down. So basically, it gives you a limitation on how Brutal Feed actually works, which is probably good, considering how disgustingly overpowered that power is. Also change, armor does not protect against Brutal Feed, as the wounds are, or at least begin as, mainly internal. 2, of course armor may protect from the bite itself as normal. I don't think that should be changed. I think that should be added. I think the whole thing should read, armor does not protect against Brutal Feed as the wounds are, or at least begin as, mainly internal. And, of course, armor may protect from the bite itself as normal. Because that makes sense, because you're talking about the biting itself, but the Brutal Feed act is your teeth are already in there. Fist of Cain, also Potence, has an errata also. Change duration 1 turn to duration 1 scene. So you get the action to deal aggravated damage to vampires for the entire fucking scene at the expenditure of the 1 cost instead of it being by turn. Ugh, that's terrifying, but there we go. We got Presence, Lingering Kiss, which we are going to cover next week on Friday, or this Friday, I should actually say. And I'm going to go ahead and read the errata here, but I'm going to try to remember to put this in the actual video also. Lingering Kiss, page 274. Change, mortals fed upon by the user become addicted to the kiss. 2, victims fed upon by the user become addicted to the kiss. Victims. So it's basically not saying mortals specifically. You could do this on other vampires. Change, mortals often become anemic, self-harm, or even die from the addiction, but vampires find it a useful power for cultivating a herd. 2, mortals often become anemic, self-harm, or even die from the addiction, but vampires find it useful for cultivating a herd and empowering their favored associates. Addicting other vampires is also possible, with the caveat that obsessed vampires demanding to be fed from quickly lead to their users becoming bloodbound. Interesting. That's more, again, it's more of an adding on about vampire interactions, so that helps. Also, change the system. The vampire can choose to use this power or not during each feeding. The user adds dice equal to their presence to any subsequent charisma attribute assisted pool against the bitten subject. A mortal fed upon with this power will make a willpower test a difficulty equal to the user's presence every week to resist this effect. Winning this test for 3 consecutive weeks breaks the effect, as does the single critical win. So we're going to change that to the system. The vampire can choose to use this power or not during each feeding. The victim gains a bonus equal to half of the user's presence rounded up to one category of the dice pool, physical, social, or mental, chosen by the user. This benefit lasts for a number of nights equal to the user's presence and is renewed to full duration if used again during the period. Once the benefit fades, withdrawal strikes, and all actions not spent working towards acquiring a new fix receive a penalty equal to the initial bonus, including trying to resist whatever the user asks of the addict. A victim fed upon with this power can make a willpower test difficulty equal to the user's presence every week to resist the effects. That's a lot of stuff that just was thrown in there afterwards. I don't know if this was forgotten or if this was like figured out through game testing, like play testing. Not really sure. I think it's a good additive, but I really wish it had already been in there. Feral weapons, page 270. So Protean's getting some erratas too here. Change. When activated, the vampire adds a +2 modifier to their brawl damage and causes aggravated health damage to mortals. Superficial damage inflicted from feral weapons is not halved. 2. Change it to: when activated, a vampire's natural weapons of choice becomes a light, piercing brawl weapon with a +2 modifier to damage. Vampiric bite attacks still only deal 2 points of aggravated damage, despite the number of successes, but do not suffer the called shot penalty. Superficial damage inflicted by the user's natural weapons is not halved, while feral weapons is active. That's pretty fucking... That's interesting. I kind of just miss when feral weapons or feral claws just did aggravated damage. But the fact that, like, you can choose to have it be your claws or some kind of spine or your fangs is interesting, and it adds a lot to this kind of... It adds a lot. That's all I can really say about it. I think it's pretty cool that it does that. Mistform, page 271. Added. Level 5 header to Mistform. So that's all I forgot on Mistform? Yes, it is. Characteristics, page 272. Added. The ghouls of blood sorcerers or thin bloods drinking from sanguine temperaments gain temporary access to discipline powers, but not to rituals. Okay? That makes a lot of sense. Like, when you're talking about the fact that, like, blood sorcerers typically get rituals on top of their discipline use for, like, blood sorcery and stuff, that makes a lot of sense. I kind of just would have accepted that already. Like, I don't think I would have allowed people who were playing ghouls to just suddenly be able to do ceremonies. That takes knowledge. That takes time to learn. Profane Hierogamos, page 285. The power was entirely rewritten and recategorized as a level 3. Updated text. So this is blood alchemy. or thin blood alchemy. To the alchemist, rebirth and renewal are not locked behind the ritual of sacred union between two opposites. Through the power of their mercurial vitae, the alchemist can help shape a human body to match the mental self-image or desired shape held by the consciousness within it. Dude, I gotta reread this whole thing. This is an interesting, this almost sounds like ceremonial vicissitude, almost. With the help of rare reagents, the alchemist can even defy one of the fundamental curses of the vampire condition by altering the unchanging state by which the undead revert to in their day sleep. This specific formula can be imbibed by mortals or vampires other than the alchemist after the ritual purification and deep meditation on their own idealized or desired form. This knowledge makes the expertise of the alchemist a valuable and desired commodity, even to those kindred who loathe their very existence. Duskborn only offering services to these are more likely to be coerced to work or kidnapped than paid handsomely. Ingredients: the alchemist's blood, the melancholic and phlegmatic human blood, entheogenic substance. Activation costs: 1 rouse check or 1 point of aggravated damage for mortals. Dice pool: stamina plus resolve. System: whoever imbibes the formula mixed with a rouse check's worth of their own vitae instantly falls into a catatonic fever dream until the following night. The depths of their psyche plumbed from the personal idealized form or a form strongly desired. The effects of profane hieros gamos are limited to the external morphology of human form. The blood-refusing transformations too outlandish or fantastical to be without wondrous spectrum of human anatomy. The imbiber makes a stamina plus resolve roll against a difficulty of 8, minus the successes of the distillation roll. If the imbiber is a vampire, they add their bane severity to the difficulty of the check. On a win, the transformation process is successful and their physical body molds into a desired shape. A critical win grants and removes merits and flaws of the looks category, though, like all advantages, they need to be paid for with experience. Page 180. A messy critical or a bestial failure causes a new flaw to manifest, ranging from repugnant, obvious predator, stigmata, or even organivore, as the beast interferes with the transformation. Not even the blood of the Dustborn can spare the Nosferatu from their bane. The process incorporating the clan's hideous affiliation despite the user's mental image. Duration: permanence until performed again. Holy shit! So you completely change what your character looks like. This is ritualistic vicissitude. This is... I haven't... We are going through these books together. Like, I've read the majority of the core book, but I haven't read through all of the powers. I'm only reading through the powers as I need them or as we go through them together. And we haven't gotten to blood alchemy yet, or thin blood alchemy yet. And that's fucking crazy. I wonder what the original ritual was, but I can understand why they might have changed it as to a level 3 if it was something lower than that, because damn, that is crazy. Thin blood alchemy, page 287. Change 5 minus 3 equals 2 to 5 minus 2 equals 3. It's new math. Cover table, page 302. Remove the last 2 rows titled Very Hard and Nearly Impossible. The table should end with Murder Hole. The fuck is that shit? What? The table should end with Murder Hole. Next. Predator Pool. Page 302. Change Headhunter to Bloodleech. Okay. Maybe they were they messing around, like was Headhunter the original concept of a vampire who feeds on other vampires and they switched it over to Bloodleech, or I don't know. If anybody knows what that shit is, let me know. Chapter 11. Competence Assumption. Page 352. Change in a game makes sense to assume that the characters to in a game about emotions and relationships, it makes sense to assume that the characters... Okay. Basically, that's basically just going over like what your game style is. So, Church and State, page 361 and 363, change BOPE to BOES. Bope to Bows. I don't know. Mortals, page 370. Change. The exception to this rule comes where their secondary attributes and professions or role-specific challenges come into play, such as a cop's aim being higher than their typical physical pool, or an inquisitioner's perception of danger. 2. The exception to this rule comes where the secondary attributes and professions of role-specific challenges come into play, such as a cop's aim or an inquisitioner's perception of danger being higher than their typical physical pool. Sacrifice the child. Page 382. Change resolve plus humanity plus blood potency to humanity plus blood potency. Just remove resolve from there all the way around. So, I mean, you really don't need to add 3 things, because that could be 5. That could be like 8, and that could be like 3. Like that's a lot of shit to add. So, all right, additional material: lore sheets, Appendix 1, standard feats, Appendix 2, projects, Appendix 3, advice for considerate play. Added additional material that was previously PDF, only bonus text. The lore sheets added are in order of appearance: descendant of Tyler, descendant of Zelios, descendant of... I'm going to give that a try. Vasentessina. High clan, low clan. Ambrose Maropus. Carmelita Nielsen. Fiorenza Savannah, descendant of Carl Scheck, and descendant of Xavier. We're going to go over those as we go over those on regular Metaplot Monday, because I do have those. In fact, those are the only ones I knew about. I knew that they added more things, and the way that I found out they added more things to the lore sheets was on opening night that we first tried to use V5 in a setting. We pulled out the game and we were doing our episode 0, effectively, character creation stuff, and somebody came up with me with asking me if they could use lore sheets that I didn't know about. I was like, I have the books. I have all the books. Why the hell? Like, I bought the Elder bundle and it had all this stuff, but I had not checked my email after I got it, and apparently there was like all of these lore sheets were added after I got my book, which sucks. That really, really sucks, because I expect to buy a book and have all the pages in it. Is that not how books work? I mean, it just sucks to have to like go, and here's my binder of errata for all the stuff that you guys just read. So make sure you check this extra stuff just so you know. Like, I'm going to have to go through and basically just highlight the areas of my book, which I hate doing. I hate things in my book. I like my book to be pristine the way that it was. But I'm going to have to like highlight the stuff in my book and just go check the page of the errata. Which, I mean, isn't that big of a deal. It's just another book that I'm going to have that doesn't look like the rest of the book. It's going to have to be in a binder or a folder or something. There are more. There is the errata inside of the companion. All right, so here we are inside the companion. The companion was one of the first things that came out when basically a bunch of the old White Wolf people came back and started working in World of Darkness again and went, I don't like this stuff, so here's some changes. Which, I completely understand, but it's one of those things that just... Look, it's more stuff that we need to, like, consider when we're doing stuff. And you don't have to, you could just ignore this, but I have found that these, much like the other errata, are going to help make your game run smoother. So, here we go. With the vampire out in the wild for a couple of years now, we want to take the chance to address and update some features that in extended play have proved to over or underperform, and also to clarify a few things that could have been more clearly defined in the core book. Please note that just like all the rules, these changes are optional and storytellers should not feel required to adopt them if the old ways worked for their troop. Nobody knows the needs for their table better than those sitting at it. After all, happy hunting. That was a very nice thing written in. That was not needed. They could have just gone, errata, shit, changed. Here you go. But that was a nice thing to add. Now, blood surge increase. Increase blood surge value by 1 for all blood potency values, taking the span from 0 to 5 to 1 to 6. See attached table on page 63 to include future printings of the core book. So here is our new blood surge. Here's our new blood surge table. Blood potency of 1, blood surge 1. Like it's set up very nice, and I understand why they did this. They did this so that people would actually be punished by Bane severity. The idea of your Bane severity only being 1 if you have a blood potency of 1 just kind of doesn't do it, you know? Like when you've got a blood potency of 1 and you're a Nosferatu, it's just like, oh, look at this guy. He's not that attractive, but like, I don't know. Just I enjoy a higher blood potency due to the Bane severity issues, and I can understand why they would do that, and it does bring out more of a role play sense of urgency for how bad your stuff can be. Not to mention when you're doing things like, you don't want to have your vampires that are like 13th gen basically just be humans with superpowers. You do want them to feel that human stigma of being a supernatural. Designer's comment: as the majority of vampire characters have a blood potency of 1 or 2, getting a single die for the price of a rouse check is a pretty raw deal. And blood surge was rarely used to the extent that it was intended. We believe players will get more mileage out of it now, especially at the lower blood potencies. This also means that thin bloods gain this ability, but gain only a single die out of it. Makes a lot of sense. And again, the whole designer's comments, which they added to all of these, we didn't get that in the original errata from 2019 that we already read. I like the fact that they're doing this because you get to see what mechanics are tinkering around in there. And keep in mind, this is also from when the New Guard took over. So they're reading what the old publisher put out and went, we don't want to start a new edition, but we don't like the way this runs. So, Bane Severity Increase. Increase Bane Severity value by 1 for all blood potency values, taking the span from 0 to 5 to 0 to 6. See attached table to include the future printings of the core book. That's what I was saying. Like, maybe I just look at the negatives, because the positives are fun, but the negatives add more roleplay flavor. So let's see what the designer said. As the defining traits of the clans, the Banes often fall short, ending up more as a nuisance than proper curses at lower blood potencies. By increasing them in a similar manner to the Blood Surge, they will be more keenly felt, accentuating these failings inherited from dread ancestors. While this also means that Thin Bloods gain a Bane severity, they usually ignore it unless laden with the clan curse flaw. See Vampire the Masquerade, page 183. So again, makes a lot of sense, and it is more for drama than anything else, which I highly appreciate. Compulsions from messy criticals. Compulsions can result from messy criticals just as they do from bestial failures, included in future printings. Okay, designer comments. Limiting compulsions to bestial failures makes them too rare to play, and allowing them to result from messy criticals helps in portraying otherwise tricky to explain messes, such as awareness tests and other passive actions. Nothing is really lost by combining the options from messy criticals and bestial failures into the smorgasbord of complications applicable to both. That's really true. I don't know how many people have done like awareness checks and got bestial failures and been like, how do you make it so that the beast took over and created a mess when you're just looking for something or when you're just trying to notice something? The fact that now you could suffer from a compulsion when you fail these things makes a lot more sense. When a Lasombra suffers from being ruthless because he's not noticing something, that can make a lot of sense. When a Toreador gets a messy when a Toreador gets a messy critical and like loses themselves in the detail of things when they're, and I'm just talking about awareness checks, but like that makes so much more sense, and I like that a lot. Expanding on taking half as a player. In addition to handing out automatic wins where merited storytellers are encouraged to let players take half, counting half the dice pool as regular successes rather than roll in cases where the player wants to ensure a win on an easy test or doesn't want to risk hunger complications. To keep things interesting, storytellers should keep the exact difficulties of tests secret, though descriptive hints such as "this seems really beneath you" or "you're not sure you can crack this without serious effort" are all fine. That's an interesting way of putting it. I have been known in the past to roll the die with the idea that the person has already passed, just to keep them on edge when it comes to storytelling, because there's things that people are just able to do that it doesn't make sense if they fail. Sam Heron in the Chronicle that I'm running currently comes into mind, where that man's going to pretty much win almost every test when it comes to computers, because not only is he just phenomenal at it and has the best equipment to do those things, he also has help in a fashion. So it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of thing. What does the designer say about that? Keeping the difficulties of tests secret and letting the players themselves decide when to roll and when to take half not only speeds up the game, but also hands more control to the players in regards to hunger and its potential volatile effect on otherwise mundane situations. This is how Vampire's 5th edition was run for most of its playtest cycle, but this exact method was never explicitly detailed in the core rulebook, ending up between the intended of automatic wins and take half fixed difficulties for storyteller characters. That's interesting. I don't think that is something that I'm going to use on a regular basis, but I do like the whole take half idea. But the storyteller definitely does have to keep in mind what the difficulties of certain things are going to be, so that could actually lead to yes, speeded up game time, but I can see that being a lot more hard work for detail-oriented stuff for the storytellers, where a lot of people just kind of like have the general idea of what's going on and kind of make it up as they go, myself included. So that is a very interesting thing. I'd like to know, what are your thoughts on the expanding on the taking half as the players note in the errata? Let me know. Lingering Kiss errata. Lingering Kiss has been erratated. It's been eradicated. Lingering Kiss has been changed again. The lingering kiss of a vampire induces a near ecstasy in the victim, but this power leaves other kisses in the dust. Victims fed upon by the user are temporarily empowered, but also become addicted to the kiss, obsessing over it, and even seeking the vampire out for repeated feedings. Mortals often become anemic, self-harm, or even die from this addiction. Addicting other vampires is also possible, with the caveat that obsessed vampires demanding to be fed risks the user becoming blood-bound. Once under a blood bond, a vampire becomes unable to use this power on other vampires, being limited to employing it on mortals. That's interesting. System. The vampire are cost-free. The vampire can choose to use this power during each feeding, where they sate at least one hunger. The victim gains a bonus equal to half of the user's presence rounded up to one social attribute of their choice. This benefit lasts for a single night. Once it fades, withdrawals strike, and all the victim's actions not spent working towards acquiring a new fix receives a dice penalty equal to the initial bonus. A victim in withdrawal can spend willpower to ignore the penalties for a scene, and the penalties go away after a number of nights equal to the user's presence rating. This power cannot be used on a vampire by a user who is under the thrall of a blood bond. Also, vampires with the unbondable merit cannot acquire this power. Duration, a number of nights equal to the user's presence rating. A vampire who cannot be bloodbound cannot take this power. That's an interesting little thing there. Designer's comment. We appreciated the revised effect of this power as printed in the latest set of the core book, as tempting the player rather than just the character is the best form of temptation. However, the benefit of the revised power ended up off the scale, and many have found it far too open for exploits, especially for a level 2 power. Thus, we wanted to keep the concept in place while reining in the effects and making it more appropriate to its level. and parent discipline. This latest version of the power is also available in the latest Vampire Errata document, as well as future printings. So, yeah. That's interesting. I like the way that they did that, because if you're building a Toreador character, and I'm just jumping to Toreador, it could be Brujah, could be Ventrue, could be anybody with presence, really, depending on their predator type. But if you were building a vampire with presence, and it's a level 2, you could start with that, which means you could actually look at your merits and flaws and stuff, and just build a character around that and just rule the game. Because like, you could get other vampires addicted to you and just climb to the top of the power wheel, and it would completely throw off the game. Your 13th generation has just completely dominated the prince with addiction, because you were able to seduce them into drinking your blood one time. And yeah, it's I like that update, because it takes into consideration that some people do plan out their characters that far in advance. I have played with people who will sit down and they write out their ideal endgame character sheet and then backplot how long it's going to take them to get to that character. And with that, you could just get there. It's like so fucking easy. So yeah. So these are the errata. And as I go over the disciplines and stuff, I will, like, when I get to presence, I will go over at the errata version of this instead of what's in the books and stuff like that, or I'll do both. I really don't know, but I will do one or the other. I love this book. I really do. I think the companion is my favorite book, but it's got Tzimisce in it, so that would be your explanation on that one. So yeah, there is, like I said, a lot of things that have changed in Vampire the Masquerade, in the erratas and things like that, and I think that is one of the big things we need to take in consideration, is if these rules that they want us, or that they've provided for us, are going to be what we're going to use in one thing or another, in our chronicles and our games and stuff like that. So it's really up to us still, and that's that. I do want to say thank you to Jason Gaylord, and also thank you to Larissa for pointing out that the errata are there, and that is what has come out. And I missed it because I don't pay attention to that shit, and it really sucks, because I should, but I don't. So I am Voivode Maquette. This is a Voivode Maquette presents Our World of Darkness, and this has been a detailed look at the errata for Metaplot Monday, and I hope this has helped people. Maybe I've informed people of things that they didn't know about, because I didn't know about this stuff. But thank you for joining me on this little adventure, and we will continue with presence on Friday. Good evening.